Hello internet friends, my name is Bay and welcome back to the Shadowlands alpha testing, my incredibly boring analytical behind the scenes tooltip testing nonsense. This is the update recap video for the Restoration Druid, the Tree Druid. Had to change our character if you were noticing the other Druid videos are a Worgen. There's a new build today. So a couple things I will update you on overall of the course of the Druidy stuff, but if the real update video is on hold. So the goal I had for all these was to do every single spec and then sort of end with a dungeon POV run as B-roll as I talked over it and commentated upon the whole class as a whole, the different changes they've gone here, there, and everywhere. But couldn't get a Druid dungeon run today. Couldn't get into a dungeon at all. Waited in queue for almost 40 minutes. And I didn't have enough of my friends that were also have access to do a run with them because everyone's testing Torghast. So I'm adjusting my schedule a little bit. We're going to jump into Torghast tomorrow, but I needed to get the Druid video out today. And if you're wondering, of course, where is all this happening? Today's video is brought to you in a weird way of just plugging something else of my own socials, my Twitch stream. So link is, of course, down below. It'll be down below in the pinned comment on YouTube, or you can just navigate to it. It's FinalBossTV over on Twitch TV. That's where all the testing happens, where all the dungeon runs will happen, where all the live back and forth feedback community-oriented discussion is going to be happening so that I can understand where you guys are coming from so we can provide the right feedback and share the right information to everyone else that's out there. So twitch.tv/FinalBossTV. That's me. So today, we're doing Restoration Druid. And the first things first, though, add-ons are now also disabled in this build, so no more cool background Narcissus by Peter Yu. So we got the base stuff right now until they re-enable add-ons. So we're back to this kind of a preview image. Unfortunately, I was happy with some of the add-ons working, but we'll get back to them later. New build today. I'll bring up my notes here and read off some things here while we get started, and then we'll go over the Restoration Druid stuff specifically. Balanced Druid Eclipse, the Star Surge 3 seconds is working. There's also some new art assets for Eclipse cycles, but that's not hooked up yet. Balance and Feral affinities have been updated with the Heart of the Wild talent. So I can bounce over here and show those off. So Heart of the Wild is a new talent that comes back to all Druids, and it has a 5-minute cooldown and a 45-second duration that incredibly amplifies your affinity. So your other role, your swap role, your chicken weave, your cat weave, your etc. So the Heart of the Wild balance now makes the Star Surge instant cast, otherwise it's a cast time. And the Feral affinity Heart of the Wild gives your, we're going to walk over here and fly back up so we're in the rested area so we can change some things around. Heart of the Wild with Feral gives you, I believe it's called, Primal Fury, which is the generators that crit give you 2 combo points, which is a pretty big deal. And yeah, you can see it right here. Heart of the Wild. Your attacks generate a combo point, generate an additional combo point. And then Guardian Affinity is nothing changed for that one. It's just the Frenzy Regeneration, 2 charges kind of thing. Iron Ferment overlap, same thing you've been seeing before. So other big changes overall for the Druid is that Feral Druids, you got back 1 charge of Survival Instincts on a 4-minute cooldown. Bears still have 2. Bears can still, of course, talent into SOTF, Survival of the Fittest talent, and get the recharge reduction. Updated Blood Talons for Cat as well. More of that in the actual Druid update video, but it's the B-roll background video. I'll make that next week. Guardian Druids also get a 60-second Stampeding Roar. Every other Druid has a 2-minute cooldown. And of course, if you are a Resto Druid, if you're not in a form, it puts you in bear form immediately. If you're in bear form or cat form, you stay in bear or cat. Same kind of thing for Balanced Druid. If you are not in a form or in Moonkin form, it puts you into bear form unless you go bear specifically for it, or go cat form with like a dash or something else as well. Other notes. Overall stuff for Druids, you also had Roar is back for all of them. Cyclone is back. You see that on the bars down there. Cyclone is going to be huge. It's a PvP talent right now in BFA, but this is now for all Druids. Little weird for cats and bears because they have to switch out to caster form, whereas Balance and Resto just hits Cyclone and it cyclones things. Wrath is baseline for all druids, and Barkskin baseline for all druids. Starts out with an 8-second duration. You get a leveling up as you do with a rank of it. Adds 4 more seconds to it. But that is how it is there. The cooldown is different for, I think, bears, a little longer. But it's 1 minute by default here. Big thing for the Restoration Druid here is not everyone has these yet. It might come down to... We're going to stand over here and heal this Craftsman. No, we can't heal the Craftsman. Where's the guards? You can heal the guards. There you go. Is you have different ranks of spells, sort of like Warlord style, but these, of course, will be core to the kit. Innervate rank 2. If you cast Innervate on somebody else, you get 50% of its effectiveness. Obviously, I'm not leveling on these characters, so I don't know if it's confirmed or not that if it's 50% of its overall effect of Innervate, which is both the 12-second duration and free spells, a lot of discussion came out that it's probably half cost mana cost spells for 12 seconds instead of free spells. That's what I imagine that's going to be how it might look for you guys. But that still means that you don't, if you're in obviously a 5-man and you want to self-innervate, then by all means self-innervate, because yeah, you can only use it on healers if you didn't know. If you're in a raid group, however, casting it on your fellow other healer still gives you some big benefit, making it, 1.5 times as useful, essentially. Regrowth rank 2. This is a callback, I believe, to a regrowth effect you used to have, but kind of. It's that Regrowth's initial heal has a 40% increased critical chance on targets that already have, oh, hello there, that already have the Regrowth hot on them. So that, of course, would stack with things like Abundance, for sure, and Soul of the Forest, for sure. Iron Bark, you notice that's no longer a talent. Iron Bark is becoming a rolled-in baseline level 56 rank 2. It doesn't have the cooldown reduction anymore, so by default, Iron Bark is going to have the 90-second cooldown, which is a bit slower. But overall, it's going to give you the 20% additional healer time effects on the target that you do Iron Bark. Normally, of course, the tank or someone soaking a mechanic, etc. Maybe you, if you stood in fire and you want to Iron Bark and Bark skin yourself at the same time. Maybe, but you obviously use it for your tank. And the big one is Nature's Swiftness is back, level 58. This makes your next Regrowth, Rebirth, or Entangling Roots instant, free, and castable in all forms. 60-second, i.e. 1 minute cooldown. The heal, which is just Regrowth in this case, is basically a guaranteed crit. It's 100% additional healing. Now, that also, this brings up much of what I'm going to discuss here in this recording. And we're only 8 minutes or so in, but the long and short of the rest of this summary, as you can see ahead of you, we'll talk about Overgrowth and Nourish in a moment, but Restoration Druid is still exactly what it is in BFA. Obviously, you remove your Heart of Azeroth, remove corruptions, remove essences, all that stuff's gone. But nothing else has really changed here. A couple of the other small things I had, you can still obviously have 9 hots on a target for your Mastery Harmony. That's still going to be a big thing, where you can give Life Bloom, Rejuvenation, Germination, Regrowth, Wild Growth, Spring Blossoms, Cultivation, Cenarian Ward, and Tranquility. Granted, I don't know if you could actually digitally do that, but that's the cap on your hots on one target. And then Stonebark removed, made the passive, added Overgrowth, which is a BFA PvP talent. The cooldown goes up on that a little bit. Prosperity is gone. That's your Nourish ability comes into play there. And everything else is the same. You are going to be healing essentially the same way you are now, except the differences here come into play with the introduction of Nature's Swiftness, the power baseline of Overgrowth, which the PvP version of this was 45 seconds. Now it's a minute-long cooldown. But this applies all 4 of your primary hots to the heart of your target. So Life Bloom, Rejuvenation, Wild Growth, and Regrowths all go to the target, bing, bang, boom. And before you wonder, it does move your Life Bloom. You cannot have 2 Life Blooms on a target. See there, no longer Life Bloom on me. It moved it over to the Praetor Sentry over here. Additionally, with the changes to No More Prosperity, Nourish is in this place. There's a little bit of change to Swift Mend. It now has basically built-in cooldown reduction. It's only a 15-second cooldown, not the 25 minus the cooldown reduction from Prosperity. Only one charge at a time, though. This will consume, in order, Regrowth, or, if that's not present, Wild Growth, or if either of those aren't present, Rejuvenation. It eats the hot and does a big instant heal. There's a couple of different things we talked about during the stream today. That the weakest hot is easily Regrowth. It is the tiniest heal over time of any of your hots. And then next is Wild Growth, and then finally is Rejuvenation. But Regrowth is the middle mana cost here. So as a mana cost, there's two different ways you do this. You can obviously do the Regrowth, Swift Mend, right? That's like the double whammy. Instant heal from Regrowth, which you can have either stacked up with Abundance, or you can Soul the Forest, combine that with the previous cast of your Swift Mend. So you can Swift Mend and then Regrowth. Either one, you can eat a different heal off of it. So there's something there, right? That's the interplay. The other big point here is that if you wanted to do the most mana efficient one, it's actually, because of mana cost changes, Rejuvenation is going to be your Rejuve Swift Mend. Now that obviously eats your big hot, but it is also the cheapest version of doing a quick, like, on the move, instant combination heal on whoever needs it at the time. So there's that. Other crazy things that we were talking about today too are, picture a situation where you're tank healing, which Nourish comes into play now. A lot of the feedback that has happened since the removal of the healing touch situation, and Nature Swiftness for that matter, is that healing a single target for a Restored Druid has always been kind of like, oh, they're low, I gotta spam Regrowth. I'm getting them. Don't worry, I'm getting... right? And obviously that's why you have the Abundance talent right now a lot of the times, because you're blanketing Rejuves anyway, and then you get the critical effect on your Regrowths to make your direct healing bigger. But now, Nourish is a direct heal, 2-second cast before haste, but it receives triple the bonus from Mastery Harmony. So now you're like, oh, but Overgrowth immediately puts 4 hots on the target, and that's absolutely correct, because you get big Nourishes in comparison to HP values here. And Nourish is not a really expensive spell to cast compared to Regrowth. I do believe they're similar, but Regrowth is 340 and Nourish is 320. You have squished mana pools now. Some parts of that make sense, and obviously I'm level 50, not level 60, so base mana may change. But the huge triple bonus for Mastery there, and because obviously it's a single targeted casted heal, versus, say, Scenario Ward, that sort of proactive or reactive hot kind of a situation, and Abundance, which requires you blanketing, having an option to have more single target potential, especially with combinations, say, right, your max level, you have NS again, and you've got the Regrowth, the extra bonus here, Regrowth rank 2. And you've got Iron Bark. And if you're told to single target heal as a Restored Druid right now in BFA, you're like, ooh. But in Shadowlands, you can still, of course, do like the Inner Peace, Soul of the Forest, or Cultivation, sort of AoE blanketing Germination build, or Spring Blossoms, or whatever else that if you're the throughput healer. But if you're in a 5-man, and we talked about this today, and a couple of people were sort of chiming in on the fact that in 5-man content, and I would assume in smaller form content like PvP, maybe even Battlegrounds, Mastery is way more important for the Restored Druid, because obviously you're only really ever casting your instance. That's a big benefit of what you do as a Restored Druid, is blanket hots. You have the potential now, too, to have all of those hots that may proc, say if you run Cultivation as well here, you got your Overgrowth, you got your extra heal that sort of procs in itself. You can obviously run Photosynthesis because it's just good, or you can Germination as well. And you can be casting all of your instant heals. Your Cultivation might pop off there. You can Overgrowth someone, and if you get the time to hard cast a Nourish, right? So that was a 3,500 crit right there with 4 hots. I think it was 5 actually, because you can't see all the buffs on the mob. I only have 10,000 health, and that was a 4,000 crit. that's just shy half your HP with one cast. So the topper time potential, that's an interesting, look at that bumper sticker, is very apparent, and that's not even counting you can follow up the Nourish with a Swift Mend. Or Nature's Swiftness, a regrowth after a previous regrowth, and then Swift Mend it off. So the options are definitely there. The extra utility from Innervate being able to be used on someone else, not only you, and you still gain the benefit from it. There is a bit of a utility swaffle going on here with moving around things. Guardian Affinity having in-cap Roar, Feral, of course, having Maim now. Ferocious Bite is baseline, so you can cat weave really poorly. Or obviously take Feral Affinity to cat weave and then take Heart of the Wild and do even more. Balance Affinity is where Typhoon was moved to. So you do have to talent into one of your other interrupts. But with baseline Ursol, and then you can, of course, take Typhoon, it actually makes me wonder if, due to the change in the Eclipse window now, that you can be spamming your Wrath and you get the new Eclipse windows. So I wonder if Moonkin weaving would be a thing. I can't imagine it would be, but it is a potential. There's no cooldown on the Moonkin form balance affinity anymore. It is very, you're in Wrath now. You don't have to even be in Moonkin form once you proc the, once you're in Solar Eclipse, because you can cast it in normal form, and you don't get a spell damage bonus or anything like that if you're in Moonkin form, if you don't actually have Moonkin. But it could be a thing. I don't know. Again, especially with Balance Affinity, Heart of the Wild, and having the instant Star Surge and the 30% damage amp, Feral Weaving obviously puts you in melee range, potentially closer to danger, and locks you into a form way to build combo points. If you're Balance Affinity weaving your Moonkin form with Heart of the Wild for like a burst window of time in a Mythic Plus or a dungeon or a PvP or a raid, you're still in caster form, and popping right out of Moonkin to start healing again is probably a little bit less. I mean, it's similar, but a little less jarring than trying to Feral Cat Weave and then pop out. So there's something there. Obviously, the Feral Cat Weaving thing is mostly because you could have like Moonfire up, go into cat form, rake and rip, jump back out, heal. Sure. But at least, again, the biggest thing that I'm noticing here about the updates to the Restoration Druid are choices, because Druid talent rows, in particular, you only have 4 that are like power rows, if you want to go in that regard. A lot of everyone else has like 5, because you have the Affinity row is a power row, but by default, it's kind of just like, it's not a direct indication of your character or improvement. And then you've got your, CC utility row, and then a CC utility row, personal cooldown renewal, that kind of thing. So you only have this row, and then the bottom 3 that are actually impactful things directly to your character. But all of these have to be sort of big and beefy in a choice. And the sentiment that I at least got from chat today when I was live testing, again, over on twitch.tv/FinalBossTV, is that almost any combination could work. It just depends on the situation you're in. Because you could do things like Overgrowth and Flourish. So you can have a need to heal someone on the move, and these both instant, where you can Overgrowth someone and then Flourish them. You have 2 GCDs to apply 4 hots to a target, add 8 seconds to it, and for the following 8 seconds, they tick 100% faster. And then you've got a big old Swiftmend coming in, or you've got the follow-up Nourishes as well, because you can set someone up with 4 hots and then Nourish them. And Overgrowth is cheaper. It's about, we worked it out at this current level, it's like 560 mana cheaper than casting all 4 of these spells individually for the cost of 600 mana for all 4 on a 1-minute cooldown. So that's the biggest takeaway, I think, is the choice. Because if you like running big old broccoli form, then go big old broccoli form. No one's stopping you, right? And you've got Nature's Swiftness in broccoli form now on top of the effects of broccoli form. So you can hit a big old Nature Swiftness regrowth on top of whatever else you're doing with abundance spam. The choice is yours and yours alone. Good luck. Olmec style Legend of the Hidden Temple, right? Because there's, when we said prosperity was gone earlier, people, at least the feedback that I immediately got was that, yeah, good riddance. because it felt too mandatory to make Swiftness work. And now that Swiftness is back to its sort of eating the crunching, the hot, and letting you just choose what you're doing, you've got your blanket, you've got your photosynthesis, inner piece is still there for your tranquility reduction if you're in a raid and you need that extra big heal. Tranquility, of course, like I said before, is still a hot, so it still interacts with harmony. There's a lot of little things here that are like, all right, yeah. I'm an OG Restoration Druid from original vanilla World of Warcraft. I healed for 2 years before I went Shaman in Burning Crusade. And the choice in building blocks here with the potential to actually feel like you can single target heal, Soul the Forest, Germination or Flourish, maybe even Photo, all of these work in that regard. Flourish just a multi-use, both single target with Overgrowth synergy, or obviously it's a big AoE component where you have your blanketed regrowths out, you know, feeding your abundance, and then you hit that wild growth and then Flourish in your 5-man group, mini Tranquility as it were. You can take Mass Entangle now and have Mass Entangle and Typhoon and the Turlet. So you get the big Druid Toilet where you put the Ursol's Vortex down, you push everything out of it, and then you root it inside of it. You don't have Solar Beam like Balanced Druid has, but you know, they are the kings of utility as things looked at for the Druid anyway. There's a lot of things here that look like you have a choice, and not a lot of them are even wrong. That's going to be like the mana per minute or mana per cast conversions that did come up in chat as well today too. About there's the optimal way to heal and what heals you put on what target, and that's very healery min-maxy minutia, right? That doesn't necessarily affect every single player. But I'll check my notes here again real quick to make sure I didn't forget anything. Again, there will be another update video where I'll have, you know, B-roll talking over it and talking about the whole Druid class as everything else. But initial impact is that Feral still needs something. Balance needs a little bit here and there. Bear is still boring, but it works. And then Restoration Druid is Restoration Druid. I don't know if they really, their problem, that, well, from what I understand from BFA, was that their single target power was so gutted from them over the course of the last like 2 expansions when things changed, and Blizzard has given some of that back in a pretty meaningful way, I would say. My only other suggestion, of course, I put this out there when I did Legion to BFA. I'll do this from BFA to Shadowlands. I did it way back in the day. If you're a healer and you're not running Help Harm macros, which is what I've been using today, I've only made 2. I would suggest Help Harm macros, because this, like, say for example, my Rejuve one is Rejuve. If you have you can put mouse over helps in here too if you want to go one more step complicated. I like hard clicking on my targets just to make sure I have them targeted. And maybe it's a streamer thing because I like showing the targets I'm actually, you know, targeting. But this is a help, rejuvenation, harm, wrath. Or same thing over here. It's help, life bloom, or harm, moonfire. So I do this on my shaman, for example, in particular. I do this on my monk. And I have this on my druid as well, is that you can save a lot of your space. Like right now, obviously, I could put like regrowth on one and then put sunfire behind it, for example, if I have sunfire because I have balance affinity, right? Or something like that, right? Or I could put my star surges or my star fires behind something else to save clutter if one ability works on the other. A suggestion there. But that is the Restoration Druid. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Of course, thank you very much for tuning in, listening, hanging out, being here for all these. We've got some Torghast stuff up next. And we have Shaman starting next Monday. I test Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Do dungeon stuff, weave in some Torghast stuff, Covenant stuff eventually in the future. But thank you all for listening, tuning in. And I'll see you all in the next Shadowlands Alpha coverage video.